Essential implies leverage. And you darling have none. The new coup sneered. The next day, the board asked why our new $100 million plant was offline. The utilities lawyer simply said, "She's the only one on the list." The CEO just stared at the coup and asked, "What list?" Barbara Monroe was the kind of person you don't notice until you're on fire, and she's the one calmly walking and holding the extinguisher. Mid-50s, hair like a steel wool pad, wore the same navy cardigan so often it may as well have been part of her employee badge. She didn't talk much in meetings. He didn't need to. Because when the suits left the room to go circle jerk over synergy charts, she was the one left with the actual launch dates, the legal deadlines, and the passwords they forgot to write down. Which reminds me, before we go further, if you've made it this far and haven't hit the subscribe button or dropped a like, now's your moment. Over 93% of listeners never subscribe, and yeah, the team checks those numbers. It's depressing, like Brent's forehead. So if you like hearing how the quiet ones flip the entire boardroom upside down with one email, hit that like. It means a lot to the folks behind the scenes putting these stories together. Now back to Barbara. She wasn't flashy. She was function. If the company had bones, Barbara was the damn marrow. She'd survived 4 restructures, 2 mergers, and 1 CFO embezzlement scandal that everyone pretends never happened. She stayed quiet through all of it, just sipping her lukewarm coffee from a chipped world's okayest engineer mug and watching the chaos swirl around her like a storm that couldn't quite touch her. The new $100 million flagship facility, the one everyone was calling a generational leap in energy ops, was supposed to be her crown jewel. It was her blueprint, her ductwork, her compliance filings. Her whispered, actional call to a guy she knew in the utility company that made the grid schedule bend around their delays, like yoga instructors on Red Bull. She had a spreadsheet that made grown men weep. The wiring alone had more color coding than a box of Crayolas possessed by the ghost of Steve Jobs. But nobody gave her a ribbon or a bonus. They gave her more work. Barbara didn't complain. She tightened her shoelaces and walked to the floor, clipboard in hand, arcing off supply chain corrections, and reminding the interns again not to stack HVAC manuals on top of the emergency shutoff switch. She was still logging 18-hour days 2 weeks before launch, coordinating between unions, vendors, and whatever idiot from procurement ordered 50,000 psi-rated pipe when they needed 5,000. That was Barbara. The walking firewall between almost ready and what the hell just exploded at somewhere around day T12. A shadow slithered into the building wearing a suit that cost more than Barbara's first car. Brent Whitaker, newly christened COO, strutted in with teeth too white and confidence too unearned. Word spread fast. He was a streamliner, a fixer, a guy who'd made his name gutting legacy systems and replacing institutional inertia with agile optimization, which is executive speak for. He's about to fire everyone who knows where the real kill switches are. Barbara watched him work the floor like he owned it, taking meetings without inviting the people who actually ran the plant, asking interns for insider takes on workflow. Calling Barbara ma'am like she was a receptionist. He started using phrases like deadweight and legacy ops. She wasn't offended. She was curious. Because the thing about Barbara, she always made copies. Digital, paper, USB backups. And when Brent began sniffing around the compliance logs and asking who handled the utility integration, Barbara didn't say a word. She just updated her spreadsheet, quietly revised a few file permissions, and went home that night with a faint smile pulling at her lips, like someone who knows the train's coming, but has already stepped off the tracks. She'd seen this kind of man before, and thought the job was the software, the launch event, the camera crews. But Barbara knew the job was the grid, the wires, the signature on the energy authorization that let the entire building breathe. And what Brent didn't know, because he never bothered to ask, was that there was only one name on that document. Hers. Brent Whitaker showed up like a bad cologne, loud, overconfident, and hard to wash off. Day 1, he parked in the executive spot labeled visitor, strutted through the lobby with a Bluetooth headset he didn't use, and greeted reception with, "Let's get this place humming again." Humming? Buddy, this wasn't a spa. This was a 480,000 square foot industrial beast with a heartbeat made of turbines and ducting coils. And Barbara had been the one keeping it alive through 3 budget cuts and a 5-month copper shortage. He came from consulting, which is corporate slang for he's never actually built a damn thing, but he's real good at PowerPoints. Within 48 hours, Brent started slicing and dicing org charts like a kid with his first pair of safety scissors. He canned 3 managers by noon Thursday, and replaced them with interim strategic advisors, who looked like they just walked off the set of a deodorant commercial. Nobody over 40 got a meeting invite that week. Barbara was told her calendar access had been temporarily limited due to a workflow reshuffle. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Barbara had her own system. A dusty old ThinkPad no one else dared touch. Printed SOP's authorization log signed in blue ink. A folder on her desk marked plant launch. No idiots edition. And in it, every approval chain, every vendor contact, every tiny thread that connected their Frankenstein plant to the regional grid. Brent never once asked her what she did. Instead, he floated through meetings with a whiteboard and a dream, talking about modernizing culture and eliminating single points of failure. Ironic, considering he himself was rapidly becoming the biggest single point of failure the company had seen since the great forklift reversal of 2014. At one staff meeting, Barbara was sitting in the back, because she'd always sat in the back, taking notes in pen while Brent paced in front of a screen full of buzzwords. He gestured at a pie chart labeled legacy inefficiencies and said, "This represents everything that's holding us back." Then he pointed directly at Barbara and said, "Like our old permitting workflows, why are we still using physical signatures in 2025? There was a beat of silence. Someone coughed. Barbara blinked once and kept writing. She didn't bother to respond. I explained to a man who thinks an energy compliance protocol is just a form you can digitize in DocuSign. She knew what he was. Brent wasn't just gunning for change. He wanted a story. A hero arc. Some dramatic tale he could pitch to the board about disrupting legacy thinking and leaning into agile execution. Which meant he needed a villain. And Barbara, with her hard copies and chain of custody folders, and boring old facts, was perfect. He started by moving her off key calls. Then her badge stopped working on certain doors. Then she was pulled from the plant launch prep committee to reduce redundancy. When she showed up at a safety inspection, clipboard in hand, Brent greeted her with a smile so fake it could have been 3D printed. "We're going in a new direction, Barb. Time to let some fresh eyes take over." Barbara looked at him. Just looked. No reply. But later that day, he printed out the full list of her current responsibilities, just for herself. Then she went home, opened her dusty fireproof safe, and added a fresh USB drive labeled Final PR Relaunch Package. Do not touch. Because Barbara smelled it. The coming storm. Brent thought he was tightening a ship. What he was really doing was poking holes in the hull while standing on deck, shouting about innovation. And Barbara? She wasn't about to hand him the patch kit. Interns noticed first. Suddenly, there were whispers. What does Barbara actually do? Isn't she, like, the plant historian or something? Brent encouraged it. Called her our institutional memory like it was an insult. In one meeting, someone suggested automating the compliance chain. Brent clapped and said, "Exactly. No offense, Barbara, but the future doesn't live in a binder." She didn't respond, just flipped a page in her binder and scribbled a note. Remove his name from everything that matters. It was petty, sure, but Barbara had spent 27 years being the grown-up in the room. At a certain point, even the grown-up gets tired of babysitting. Because Brent hadn't just underestimated her. He had no idea what she held, what she'd built. And by the time he figured it out, the only thing fresh about his leadership was going to be how freshly screwed he was. Arbor knew the death blow was coming when Brent started using words like synergy in sentences that involved wiring schematics. He'd never touched a breaker box in his life. But here he was lecturing the operations team about streamlining energy compliance sign-offs like the regional utility company was just going to nod along and say, "Sure, skip the protocol." Brent said, "It's fine." It happened on a Tuesday. They were in Ops Conference B, big one with the busted speaker and the flickering light that nobody bothered to fix because, well, Barbara was the only one who knew the facility's request login. Brent stood at the head of the table, whiteboard marker in hand, like he was about to solve cold fusion with a flowchart. "Let's talk about the plant's final sign-off," he said, spinning toward Barbara. "You're saying the utility requires a hard copy authorization from the designated compliance officer. Can't we just update it in the vendor portal?" Barbara, calm as you please, opened her binder. Because under Resolution 12A, subsection, he cut her off. Mid-sentence, with a smirk. "Barbara, please, you've got a binder for everything. But this isn't 1998, sweetheart." There was a slow hush in the room. Even Greg from logistics, who once farted during an OSHA briefing and didn't notice, stopped chewing his gum. Brent turned to the team and chuckled. I mean, come on. Look, Barbara's been here a long time. We appreciate her historical perspective. But at this point, let's be real. She's not essential. She's legacy ballast. Legacy ballast. The words hung there like a fart in a church. Barbara didn't blink. Didn't flinch. She closed her binder, capped her pen, and stood up as if someone had just offered her dessert she didn't want. Brent gave her a half shrug and added, "A char will walk you through the exit process. Oh, hard feelings. She looked at him, long and slow, then turned to the rest of the ops team, made eye contact with exactly no one, and walked out. Security met her at her cubicle with a cardboard box and a badge deactivation slip. "We'll need your fob and ID, the guy said. He looked nervous, like he expected her to throw a chair. Barbara handed over both. Then picked up her coffee mug, the one that said "Still plays with power tools," slid it gently into the box. Alongside it, she placed a stapler, a backup phone charger, 2 USB drives, and a small laminated card that read, "Utility Contact Protocol Monroe Access Only." She paused, just long enough for the guy to look at it. then tucked it under the mug. But she didn't leave mad. Barbara didn't scream or slam drawers. She didn't take one last dramatic look around the office. What she did do was walk straight to the IT desk, smile politely, and ask for a final login on her terminal. Just need to send my transition notes, she said. The guy nodded and tapped his badge. Barbara sat down, typed for 11 minutes, and sent one email, CC'd to Brent, legal, ops, and 2 people no one else in that building even knew existed. The subject line was, Final System Transfer Summary, Plant 6 Pre-Launch. The email was a masterpiece, every checklist, every compliance step. Every file path for the encrypted launch scripts. Clear. Concise. Impeccably documented. Except one thing. The primary utility compliance contact field? Left blank. No explanation. No snark. Just the quiet, gaping hole where her name should have been. She logged out, shut the lid, and left her box by the security desk. Someone from facilities will need to approve my offboarding inventory, she told the guard. Though I imagine that'll be tricky, as I was facilities. Then she walked out of that building like it owed her nothing. And in a way, it didn't. Not anymore. Because Barbara had spent her whole career making sure the right switches got flipped at the right time. And this time, she left one off. Launch day was supposed to be a spectacle. The kind that got slapped on the company website and paraded at investor conferences, like a newborn covered in branding slogans. There were balloons, branded pastries. CEO was in one of those expensive, shiny suits that made him look like a ventriloquist dummy married to a golf club. Brent was even worse. Navy tailored jacket, no tie, and enough cologne to qualify as a biohazard. There was a drone guy. An actual drone guy. Hired to do a sweeping shot at the moment they flipped the metaphorical switch. A local news crew was on standby. Some poor intern had been tasked with live tweeting the event using hashtags like #NextGenEnergy and #BrightFuture. They had a ribbon. They had gold scissors. They had a podium mic'd and ready for Brent's inevitable TED light monologue about operational synergy meeting sustainable foresight. There was only one tiny problem. Nothing turned on. Like literally nothing. The lights stayed off. The HVAC system didn't rumble to life. No turbine spun. No screens flickered on with a flashy startup animation. They paid a contractor 20 grand to animate. The main grid console displayed a simple message, no primary authorization detected. At first, Brent thought it was a glitch. Just reboot the terminal, he muttered, waving at the nearest engineer like she was a hotel concierge. She tried. Twice. Then called over one of the plant electricians. The guy typed a few commands. Check the line feed. Then furrowed his brow. This ain't software, he said. This is grid side. We're not hooked. Brent chuckled nervously. What do you mean we're not hooked? This building's got more copper than a penny factory. The electrician shrugged. We've got hardware. We ain't got clearance. At that moment, a middle manager sprinted down the hallway like his pants were on fire. Operations says the utility's not registering our access. They're saying we need a sign-off from someone. Someone who? Brent snapped. The manager, sweating through his dress shirt, held up his phone with the email from the utility company. It was short, brutal, and in all caps, grid activation requires primary compliance contact authorization. Current contact, Barbara Monroe, no alternate listed. Silence. You could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. Or Brent's ego cracking like old linoleum. The CEO, who'd been halfway through a chat with an investor about strategic milestones, turned. Is that accurate? Asked calmly. Brent made a noise that could generously be described as a barked hiccup. That can't be right. She's not even. She was legacy ballast. Legacy ballast, repeated the CEO like he just found a cockroach in his champagne. One of the interns, bless her, tried to salvage the moment. Should we delay the ribbon cutting until the lights are on? They never cut that ribbon. Instead, Brent started pacing, uttering things like there should have been a failover, and why wasn't there a redundancy protocol? Legal was called. HR was called. IT was called. The contractor who did the energy portal UI was called. Even though everyone knew this wasn't a UI problem, it was a signature problem. Because buried deep in the Energy Compliance Handbook, Section 5, Subsection G, Paragraph 3. It's a clause requiring that any activation of a high-capacity industrial grid node be signed off by the designated primary compliance officer of record. And that record still said Barbara Monroe. No one had updated it. Brent never asked who filed the paperwork. Legal assumed Ops had done it. Ops assumed Brent had new contacts lined up. H.R. thought she'd been replaced in the system. But Barbara hadn't been replaced, because Barbara hadn't left the system, just left the building. The drone guy packed up. The catering folks quietly rolled their carts back to the van. One of the ribbon cutting scissors disappeared. Someone said the janitor took them, which felt poetic. Investors started tapping their watches. The news crew left to cover a dog rescue 3 blocks away. And Brent, he stood in front of a lifeless building with a fake smile and a real real sweat stain growing like a crime scene under his arms. No one said it out loud yet, but they all knew the plant hadn't failed. Brent had. The emergency board meeting was called within 2 hours of the failed launch, which meant nobody had time to polish their excuses or their shoes. The CEO showed up in a golf pullover and murder in his eyes. Half the VPs arrived still holding their bagels. Brent walked in last, pale and sweating, as if he'd just been forced to drink his own LinkedIn profile. Lights in the conference room flickered as if in solidarity with the dead plant. The utility company didn't send an email this time. They sent a man. He looked like he'd been grown in a legal lab somewhere in Delaware. Gray suit, white hair, zero discernible facial expression. He didn't shake hands, didn't introduce himself, just sat down, placed a folder on the glass table, and opened it like a priest preparing last rites. We reviewed the activation failure, he said, voice smooth and lifeless. Your grid integration failed due to a lack of primary contact clearance. As per regulatory protocol, energy delivery at this scale requires authorization from the designated individual on file. He paused, flipped a page. Your file lists one name, Barbara Monroe. Silence dropped over the room so heavy it could have cracked the floor tiles. The CEO leaned forward. You're saying we can't activate the building until she approves it? Lawyer nodded once. That is correct. But she's no longer with us. Brent croaked. She was. Her role was eliminated. We assumed the system would. The lawyer didn't even blink. No one updated the designation. Without a signed handoff, the contact cannot be changed. It's a federal requirement. The CEO turned slowly. Like a glacier rotating. He looked at Brent. What list is he referring to? Brent's mouth opened. Nothing came out. He glanced at legal. Legal glanced at HR. HR, to their credit, tried to power through it with confidence built entirely on nothing. We, believe there was a clerical delay in the succession of authority. Our system should have updated automatically upon personnel offboarding. The lawyer blinked. Once, you're confusing corporate protocol with grid compliance regulation. The systems are not connected. There is no automation. The designation is manual, logged, verified via in-person authentication. That appointment was never revoked. The CEO stood, not quickly, slowly, like the heat rising off a burner. He turned to legal. Did anyone see a revocation? Legal flipped open a binder, scanned, flipped again. The pages began to snap faster and faster as color drained from the lawyer's face. We don't have one on file. Brent tried to sit taller. Look, she was redundant. We had to trim headcount. This wasn't personal. She was legacy ops. She left quietly. The CEO stared at him. Quietly. Then he turned to the utility lawyer. If we contact M''S. Monroe and she authorizes the activation, how long would the delay be? The man didn't smile. But there was something in his eyes. Like he was watching a child learn about gravity for the first time. If she signs tonight, less than 24 hours. If she refuses, you'll need to restart the designation process. That involves site inspection, credential verification, and a full regulatory re-review. 6 to 8 weeks minimum. The board collectively exhaled, not in relief and dread. That timeline would obliterate their investor rollout, kill their press coverage, delay downstream contracts tied to the plant going live. They'd lose millions daily. In all, because one name was still on one list. Barbara Monroe. Someone at the far end of the table whispered, did no one check the compliance chain? Legal coughed, assumed it was standard. The workflow was supposed to be updated once Brent's team transitioned the launch authority. The CEO didn't even look at Brent this time. He looked at the door. Someone get me her number. Brent tried one last swing. This is absurd. We're being held hostage by a name on a form. There has to be a way to override it. The utility lawyer snapped his folder shut. There is not. Then he stood. I'll await the call. Good day. And with that, he walked out. Oh drama, no flourish. Just the cold silence of a system doing exactly what it was built to do, protect itself from people like Brent. The CEO sat back down, quiet, focused. And for the first time in years, Barbara Monroe's absence wasn't just felt. It was catastrophic. Barbara was kneading sourdough when the world came crawling back. Not some whimsical metaphor. She was elbows deep in flour, wrists deep in dough, mentally timing her second proof when the phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Classical music hummed from a dusty radio in the corner. And outside, her neighbor's dog barked like it was auditioning for a security gig it would never land. It was the first proper day off she'd had in 2 decades, and she'd chosen to spend it making bread. Because some people find peace in yoga or hiking. Barbara found hers in gluten. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. She wiped her hands on her apron, picked up the phone, and answered with all the enthusiasm of a woman who knew she was holding the upper hand. Barbara Monroe. A pause. Then, Barbara, this is Daniel from the board. Barbara blinked slowly. So not HR then. His voice was different than usual, lower, measured, like a man choosing his words very, very carefully. I understand this is unexpected, he said, but I'd like to discuss the possibility of your return immediately under revised terms. Barbara turned the stove dial down and leaned against the counter, watching dough rise like it had nothing to prove. I see, she said. Not a question, not an offer, just a mirror held up to his desperation. There was another pause. A longer one. I want to be clear, Daniel continued, that this isn't a favor. It's a formal request. The board recognizes the oversight and wants to rectify it. Our utility integration has stalled. Entire launch is at risk. You are essential? She offered the tiniest smirk, tugging at the corner of her mouth. Another pause. This one landed like a brick wrapped in velvet. Yes, he said. Finally. Barbara didn't gloat, didn't taunt. She wasn't interested in revenge. She was interested in precision. And Brent had given her the cleanest canvas in corporate history. I'll send over my conditions, she said. Calm as a lake before a hurricane. Tonight. Non-negotiable. Suggest legal reviews them with a full team. Daniel cleared his throat. I understand. I doubt that, Barbara said. But you will. She hung up. Just like that. No theatrics. No deep sighs. Just flour-dusted fingers, a firm swipe on the screen, and a return to her dough. Because here's the thing. Barbara had spent her whole life being the contingency plan. The fallback. The person you called when the shiny toys broke and the egos ran out of oxygen. But this time, she was the crisis, and she was going to treat it with all the seriousness it deserved. Later that evening, she typed the conditions with the same precision she used to engineer thermal shutdown protocols. Simple, brutal, unflinching, no fluff, no emotion, just bullet points that read like commandments. She saved the file as return terms final PDF and attached it to an email titled simply, Your Move. Then she hit send. Poured herself a glass of red wine, went back to her bread, let them chew on that overnight. DBF landed like a depth charge in the inboxes of half the executive team. It was only one page, no legalese, no fluff, just 3 bullet points written in the kind of cold, surgical tone that makes corporate lawyers both weep and applaud. 1, 400% raise, backdated to the day of termination. No negotiation. No performance reviews. No bonus tiers or incentivized compensation structures. Just raw, immediate cash for the incompetence tax they'd racked up trying to replace her with LinkedIn Vapor. 2, public apology from Brent Whitaker. Not a memo. Not a leadership transition post on the company blog. No, Barbara specified it had to be read, aloud, by Brent himself. In the same conference room where he dismissed her as legacy ballast, in front of the same team that watched her escorted out with a cardboard box and a badge deactivation slip. 3. Full reinstatement of authority over all compliance systems, plant access, and utility correspondence with autonomy, not reporting under operations, not as part of a restructured accountability pod. Barbara would have full control of her domain, again, like it always should have been. The CEO read it twice, sat back and exhaled through his nose like a man about to take a deal with the devil, and realizing the devil had better references. Can we even justify a 400% raise? HR muttered. Daniel from the board replied, without looking up, you want the lights on. Pay the power bill. Legal skimmed the second clause and frowned. Brent will fight this. Then Brent can take it up with our investors, said the CEO flatly. Or the press. Or whoever else wants to hear why our $100 million flagship facility still doesn't have grid access. Brent was summoned. He arrived late, as usual, wearing his tailored crisis suit and carrying an expression that toggled rapidly between indignation and sheer panic. When they showed him the terms, he laughed. Actually laughed. You've got to be kidding. You can't be serious. A public apology? She's holding the company hostage. The CEO didn't laugh back. Barbara's not holding us hostage. You handed her the keys and fired her. She's being vindictive. No. Legal cut in, flipping a binder shut. She's being precise. You'd know the difference if you'd ever read a protocol that wasn't on a PowerPoint. Brent looked around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to back him. But the mood had shifted. His charisma had curdled. He wasn't the savior anymore. He was the glitch. I'm not doing it, he said, crossing his arms. CEO didn't argue. He just opened his laptop and tapped a few keys. Okay. Brent blinked. What's that? Draft resignation. Effective immediately. Brent's face dropped a full shade. Wait, you're firing me? Not if you apologize. Brent stared, then whispered, this is insane. No, the CEO said, with the tired certainty of a man who's eaten 3 antacids before breakfast every day for a month. What was insane was trusting you to lead this launch. Brent didn't speak for a long time, and when he did, it wasn't to protest. It was to ask when the meeting was scheduled. By nightfall, Barbara's reply hit their inbox, terms acknowledged, see you at the reading. No exclamation point, no smiley face, just the clean, cold punctuation of someone who'd already won. Conference room hadn't been this full since the pre-COVID holiday party, when someone spiked the cider and Carl from accounting tried to moonwalk into the copier. Every division was there, ops, compliance, HR, even facilities, which usually avoided anything that smelled like suits and guilt. Laptops were closed. Phones were silent. Eyes forward. Because word had gotten out. Barbara was coming back. And Brent was going to read the apology himself. Stood at the front of the room. Face flushed. Jaw tight. Suit crisp enough to cut glass. In his hands. A single sheet of paper trembled like it knew what was coming. The CEO sat nearby, arms folded, watching. Legal was in the back. Clipboard in hand. The air smelled faintly of desperation and too much coffee. Brent cleared his throat. Then again. Thank you all for being here. He began. Voice thinner than usual. I have a prepared statement on behalf of leadership. Looked up. No one nodded, no one smiled, so he read. On behalf of executive leadership, I acknowledge that the recent removal of Barbara Monroe was a decision made in error. Monroe's role in the development, compliance, and operational readiness of Plant 6 was not only significant, it was foundational. The word landed like a stone in a quiet pond. Brent swallowed. We regret the oversight. Recognize that her departure caused direct and avoidable delays to our flagship launch. As such, effective immediately, Barbara Monroe is reinstated to her previous position, with expanded authority over all plant compliance systems and utility relations. Another pause. His fingers tightened around the paper. And I offer a personal apology to M'(S. Monroe. My previous statements, referring to her as legacy ballast, were inappropriate, unprofessional, categorically wrong. M'(S. Monroe is, and always has been, essential. His voice cracked on the last word. A few people glanced at each other, not smirking, not gloating, just registering the shift in gravity. Brent looked up, and there she was, Barbara Monroe. Same steel gray cardigan. Same practical shoes. Clipboard tucked under one arm like a weapon of mass documentation. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She just walked up the aisle, slow, steady, and stopped in front of him. He held out her badge with two hands like it was a damn ceremonial sword. She took it without a word, turned, and the whole room applauded, not raucous, not theatrical, but steady, relentless. The kind of applause you give not because you love someone, but because you respect what they just did. Because Barbara didn't scream when they cut her loose. She didn't beg, didn't gossip, fire off some LinkedIn post about toxic cultures, or new beginnings. She waited, then flipped the entire company on its back with one blank field in one form that no one bothered to check. And now she was back. Not as a symbol, as a reminder. Brent stepped aside, quietly, a little smaller than when he arrived, and Barbara, she turned toward the team, nodded once, and said only one thing before walking out of the room. Let's turn the damn thing on. The control room felt like the inside of a jet engine holding its breath. Rows of polished monitors blinked in idle blues and muted grays, each one awaiting a signal. Engineers stood back. IT tech stood still. Even the janitor had wandered in and leaned against the wall with his mop. Like he didn't want to miss the coronation. At the center console, Barbara stood alone. No ceremony. No ribbon. No photo op. Just her. One key, one terminal. She pulled the chain around her neck and removed the brass utility fob, one of the last physical authorizations left in a world choking on digital proxies. Slotted it into the console. Clicked once. Then typed. 4 commands, each line clinical. Final. The monitors blinked. Shifted. Grid status. Initializing grid status. Syncing grid status. Authorization verified. Then, with a low whine that built into a deep mechanical purr. The building woke up. Lights exploded to life like sunrise after a war. The overheads roared. Vents opened with hisses of pressure equalizing across 3 wings of the plant. Panels lit up in full schematic view, flow meters, temperature regs, voltage arcs. Somewhere in the distance, a substation kicked, and turbines rumbled like the planet had rolled over and cracked its back. Then the final screen, grid status, live. The applause didn't start immediately. It didn't need to. Hum of life was louder. Barbara stepped back from the console, just a half step, just enough to let the moment settle into the bones of every person watching. The CEO, standing in the back, clapped once, then again. Slow, deliberate. Everyone else followed, unsure whether they were celebrating the launch, the recovery, or just the sheer fact that this woman had walked them through hell and flipped the lights back on without breaking a sweat. And then, because the universe always loves one final joke, Brent tried to speak. He moved toward her cautiously. Still wearing the same smirk, though it had lost all its teeth. Barbara, I just want to say, she turned. Calm, flat eyes, no anger, no heat, just a scalpel made of words. Essential implies leverage, she said. You understand that now. He opened his mouth. She was already walking away, not storming, not grandstanding, just leaving, badge on her belt, clipboard under her arm. The hum of the living building behind her, like a choir of machines singing her name. And she didn't look back. Because she didn't have to. Everyone else would.